Welcome to Misbehaving in Maine. I'm Dan Williams. This story is called Lighting Coffin Nails with Peter Pan. And now, here goes everything. I told you last week about the benefits of having a crazy best friend. Mine was Peter the teacher defeater, poison ivy eater, the cliff-jumping god of lemmings, our touched-in-the-head adventure preacher. The benefits. You get to witness up close what fearless living looks like. It looks like walking up to the guillotine line of dying and sliding toes over the line, toe by toe, until they're gone. The toe coins spent on the rush of saying no to death 10 times, stealing the record from cats and becoming a god on their vile Olympus. Peter was my best friend, and I told him so. Sometimes we'd get into little sessions of passing loyalty back and forth. "You're my best friend," I'd say, and he'd say, "You're my best friend." Then I'd up the ante, saying, "You're the best friend I ever had, and we'll always be best friends, or die." He liked that. He liked the die part, and he'd say it back to me. All local cats would joyfully watch these sessions from the shadows and shiver their tails in a rhythm known only by the undying worms of hell. I don't know what that means, which makes sense. They're cats. Anyway, we were at Peter's house one time, doing the usual, throwing knives at school books, axes at trees, and hunting the woods behind his house for what else? Dead bodies. But we wandered farther than usual that day and wound up at the construction site of a new bridge crossing what we thought of as a river, though it was only the mighty Messalonsky stream. 'Twas late in the day, so all the workers had gone home, but they'd left behind a whole world for us to play with. Road cones, traffic barrels, rebar, a keyless skid steer, and 100 billion cigarette butts. The bridge was so close to finished, it looked eerie without cars on it. The emptiness of the brand new bridge made us feel like we'd stumbled into the end of the world. The highways and byways empty, America's circulatory system frozen, no more traffic in the veins of the dead. We went wild in this afterlife world. We put road cones on our arms and heads and battled like pointy-armed robot witches of the round table. We pulled traffic barrels down over ourselves and took turns having the other guy attack the barrel with rebar for the fun of the gunshot-level melodies within. We brutally frisked the skid steer for keys and even tried to hotwire it, which for us just meant looking for exposed wires to wiggle soberly. We made good use of stray sheets of plywood and pallets. We threw them off the bridge. Lastly, we beheld the manna all over the ground, the infinity of cigarettes, and more. We looked for a whole one. Some smokes were long, some were longer, but I wanted the untouched smoke, because I had a plan. "If we find the perfect one," I said, "is that a sign that we should smoke it?" "Of course it's a sign," said Peter. "What else would it be?" "I'm agreed," I said. This search for the immaculate smoke produced the same meditative fun you'll discover while hunting for sea glass. It made us quiet. It gave us peace. Friends and neighbors, it was wonderful playing in the dead world, getting a sense of who we'd be in a real dead world. Demolitionists and cigarette scavengers until we starve to death. Amen. In the real world, however, it was supper time. Before we departed, there's one more thing. And sorry, it's going to sound too good to be true. But sometimes life is too good. It has a right to be, dang it, after spending all its time being way too bad. You guessed it. God led me to my four-leaf clover, my miracle of an unspent cigarette. Silently, I picked it up. Even more silently, I looked over my shoulder to see if Peter saw me pick it up. He didn't. He was busy spelling all his many swear words in a mud patch with a wand of rebar. If I told him about the cigarette, there'd be no choice. We'd smoke it. But did I really want to? Members of my family called cigarettes sin sticks, though I wasn't sure why. Maybe it was because of how cool and tough they made people look. Too cool, too tough. In Maine, people say wicked, as in, this lobster's wicked good. Why? It's a Puritan thing. Those holy beasts of no nonsense believed if something was too fun, too tasty, too beautiful, it was wicked. It was something capable of upstaging God. And sorry, but cigarettes look that cool. They make smoke come out of your head. You're a dragon. And cigarettes allow you to say cool stuff like, see you in hell, before you flick your burning butt onto a serial child murderer you've drenched in gasoline. That looks fun, say the Puritans, drawn to your little judgment day by the perfume of gas. In fact, they say, it looks wicked fun. They slap your cigarette from your mouth, saving your soul. Then they light the man candle with the fire from their pipes. With my miracle cigarette in hand, I became two boys, one who wanted to tell Peter, and one who did not. As I said, if I told him, there would be smoking. He would smoke it, then I would. There'd be no stopping it, not after Peter squinted at me and floated a "your turn" on a smoke stream of dragon breath. I was about to slip the cigarette into my pocket and take it home to hide in my room so I could look at it now and then like some folks, Peter, did with the quote, girly magazines in those days. But something about the look of Peter's concentration as he studiously filled the mud canvas with well-crafted, horrible words made me feel like hiding the cigarette would be a betrayal. After all, Peter would never hide anything from me. He told me and only me about the magazines, and he shared his awesome adventures of stealing them from all convenience stores in a 25-mile radius. Without wars to fight, these are the wars we fight. Ulysses Grant battled the booze. Peter Pan battled his libido with a fistful of nudes. Peter, I said. He meant to say what, but he swore at me. Forgive him. You try saying what while spelling all your swears. Look, I cried. I held up my marvel, and Peter was at my side in a flash. Wow, he said. We admired the cigarette's length and bone whiteness, the Edenic brand newness. We were Adam and Eve beneath the cigarette tree. Seduce us. Which is the end? I said, eyeing the white part and the yellow part. Peter gave me a look that made me feel small and as tediously innocent as Eden before God planted the genital tree. This is the filter, he said, pointing to the yellow. Then he popped it in his mouth. Not the whole cigarette, just the yellow. He had the sin stick in his mouth. No problem. He just put it there without a 3, 2, 1 contact or a here we go, which I would have said to mark the momentousness of the act, to help me have the courage to follow through. The moment Peter put that cigarette in his mouth, he leveled up hugely in my eyes. He was doing it. Smoking. A kid who was actually smoking. Like a man. Like a wicked cool-looking man of the world. Too bad to be true, and yet he was. And he was my best friend. I watched him and waited When would it start? Where was the smoke? Where's the smoke? I said. He squinted at me. What? When's the smoke come out? He smiled. He could smile and have a cigarette in his mouth. How was he so good at this? You have to light it, dummy. Oh, I said. I felt like a dummy indeed. What, did I think cigarettes ignited from touching lip flesh? Who knows what I thought, but here's what I felt. I felt fire need, and the sadness that comes from having no idea how to get fire. For this feeling, I had to delve 1.5 million years deep into my genetic soup, back to the days when, if you wanted fire, you had to curse God, stand near a dry tree, and then wait for his lightning. I looked around for trees. None. We were in the ground zero zone of the construction site. But what about other flammable things, like plywood and pallets? Too late. They were all floating down the Messalonsky to the sea. I touched my pockets for some reason, even though I knew I didn't have matches, a lighter, road flares, or damp and smoldering hay. I had nothing. That's not exactly true. I had Peter, Mr. Cigarette Authority. He could say the national anthem with 100 cigarettes in his mouth and not drop one. He could find a cigarette's yellow part in the dark by mouthfeel. How did I know? Because he was the magazine-thieving, curse-writing ultra kid. In other words, Peter reached into his pocket and pulled out a lighter. I was so surprised by this, he might as well have said, "Let there be lighter," and snatched it out of the nothing of the pre-creation void. As an aside, I didn't realize until writing this that maybe, just maybe, Peter had smoked before. Anyway, he flipped the lighter open. It was one of those flipper lighters, Zippo the Almighty. He flipped it, causing it to sing its delightful metallic cling. Then, while looking me dead in the eye, he rolled the toothy silver wheel and made fire. Peter Prometheus Pan, the first and the last everlasting leader supreme of Kidland. He put the fire to the cigarette, drew in a breath, and a little bloodshot spotlight at the business end opened its eye. Peter breathed in. Peter blew out, and out came a cloud of smoke. I'd heard that the first time you smoke, you're supposed to cough until you vomit. So I didn't understand why Peter wasn't puking. I also thought of a scary word I'd heard connected to cigarettes. Cancer. A word nibbling away at the oldest edges of my church and family, snatching grandparents and great-grandparents. It wanted the best, the greats and the grands. Excellent taste, mean as hell. But Peter wasn't coughing, and I didn't hear the creaky gray hand of cancer spidering its way down his throat. So I figured only one stick in the pack is the cancer one, and it's a Russian roulette kind of thing. Close call. Peter closed the lighter with a click and sent out more smoke, which hung in the air between us, a thick cloud. It's like he grew a Santa Claus beard out of his mouth, the beard of a pubescent Santa, still thin enough you can see through it to the chin of the young saint. And through Peter's air beard of smoke, I saw, yea, I saw a vision. It showed me the face of Peter Future. Here was Peter, the man, the one no longer penned in by the school-shaped fangs of the law. I saw the Peter he is today, a guy somewhere way out in the world, if he's still in the world at all. Peter the stranger, beyond the ends of our broken promises. You're the best friend I ever had, and we'll always be friends, or die. Peter blew the smoke away, and off it drifted, taking its vision with it. He puffed 5 puffs total, then snatched the cigarette from his mouth and held it out to me. He waited. I'd been so mesmerized by his cigarette intelligence and talent, I'd forgotten that this was a two-turn event. Peter's turn, then my turn. I looked at the cigarette. I waited too. I waited for my hand to take it. I waited because the cigarette was more than a cigarette now. Of course it was. It was a little white and yellow bridge from my safe world to Neverland. Sin and cancer be damned. This is the way to fly, Dan. This is how you cross the line into possibility land. It's where all cats go when you don't know where they are. It's where Peter Pan relights the fires in his eyes when they go out, snuffed out by the world's piss, an endless stream of "no you can't" and "get in line, son, keep quiet, keep walking." Which direction? That's a stupid question. The same direction as everyone else. If you walk long enough, silently enough, and in the right direction, I promise all your dreams will come true. Unless the grave comes first, that is. Keep your head down, citizen. March. And yet, the white and yellow bridge looked like a white and yellow pirate's plank to me. How could I walk it? How could I dare to be Peter when Peter was Peter and I was only me? And who was I? A guy who feared sin and cancer. I feared teachers too. In the woods where poison ivy grew, I didn't go in those woods. And when it came to cliff jumping, I never ran with all my might. I held back, never flew, and I knew it. Therefore, slowly, sadly, relieved as can be, but also fearfully, I shook my head. No thanks. Fearfully, because, as I said, Peter was Peter, and I was me. And who was I to say no to him? You found it, he said. You smoke it. He stabbed the cigarette toward my mouth. I backed up. No, I don't want to. And in my no, I found something surprising. It wasn't just a word, one on the verge of being waved away like a stench. It was something far heavier than that. It was my toes stopping at the line of death and holding their ground. Peter stared at me. I had no idea what he would do. Punch the cigarette into my mouth, then seize me and play me like a cancer accordion. Thankfully, instead, Peter turned his stare into a cool little nod. He looked at the cigarette, at me, then he let it fall to the ground. I knew what to do immediately. No fear, no hesitation. I crushed the cigarette out with my boots, with all 10 toes, the 10 who had stepped to the line, then backed away. I smashed the cigarette flat, silenced its smoke, and was happy to. Happy the cigarette wasn't in the air anymore between us, showing me that strange future. We were us again, kids, the Pan and the Dan, best friends to the end. We left the dead world and headed back for supper. And I was glad. Glad to be me still. Glad I hadn't walked the white and yellow plank to Peter's world. I hadn't leveled up. No smoke cloud from my mouth had given Peter any vision of my future. But even without the vision cloud, I bet Peter could prophesy when it came to me. I see this old guy, said Pan. I barely recognize him. That's Dan. He looks like he hasn't trashed a construction site in 30 years. Poor codfish. And looks like he hasn't wrestled with a buddy till we're both nothing but big bloody noses. Well, maybe it's because he hasn't had a buddy like that in forever. One to get bloody with. A buddy for adventures. One who makes him feel like the rest of the world's dead, and it's just us. And we are forever. And if we aren't, well, then we're dead. But then Peter looked at my face and saw more. He saw that this Dan of the future, this safe guy who never scared a single teacher, never ate nature's poison raw, never flew, and never put his lips to the pipe of death and made his peace with it. This guy might live long enough to tell a story or two about Peter Pan. So, my best friend let the cigarette fall, let me stomp out its light. He allowed me to be me and never him, and to grow up, go away, and to leave our adventures behind. Because I had a job to do. Survive. Survive long enough to get enough distance from a story as big as Pan to see the whole thing and begin to understand it. How will I know when I'm old enough? I asked. When you see me again, said Peter, that's when. Now go. Go, my friend, and get old, but not too old. And remember not to die. You've got too many stories to tell first. Stories about me. Then, and only maybe then, you'll be ready to die. It takes a long time to be ready for that adventure. This has been Misbehaving in Maine. See you next time. And remember, you may be wicked, you may be weird, but you're not alone.